So inflation, let's talk about inflation a little bit, right? So inflation, I got some numbers for us here before, and then we can kind of cue it off. I really want to get your perspective on insurance. I can speak on real estate. But inflation, CNBC released this article, a week ago. It says inflation speeds up in April, as the April's Jobs Act, reported. Consumer prices leap 4.2% fastest since summer of 2008, right? And on top of that, we've got auto prices up 20%, car rental prices up 44%, food prices up 2.4%. My buddy Nick, the producer Nick, told me we got a shortage in chicken. All right, I was at Chick-fil-A getting food for my wife. They had a shortage.
Chick-fil-A.
Right, shortage in sauce. I had to buy the bottle because we had a shortage in sauce. But we got the U.S. currency buying power. This is really scary. Compared to the Chinese currency, the U.S. currency buying power is down 8%, literally in the year of 2021. The current national average for gas prices right now are 3.045. 12 months ago, it was at 1.8. So we're almost near double. And on top of that, we've got shortages. So copper, iron, ore, steel, coffee, wheat, corn, soybeans, lumber, semiconductors, plastic, cardboard are all in shortages on top of many, many other commodities. Inflation in April accelerated at its fastest pace in more than 12 years in the United States. The Fed was targeting, I believe, 2%, then it went up to 2.5%. We're at 4.2%. for the month of April. So again, a lot more interesting concepts. Core inflation largest since 1981, and lumber prices, that's the new kid on the block, right? That's the man of the hour, is up 124% in 2021. Copper is up 36%. So my friend, you're here because I'm a real estate expert. You've been in the insurance game for a very long time.
22 years,
And we always talk about how insurance and real estate are oftentimes the best hedge against inflation. And that number, the top 1% of income earners and the investors are always into real estate and insurance. So my first question to you, Matt, is why insurance? Why has insurance been so great and stood the test of time when it comes to inflation?
Yeah, because the insurance industry has been always masters of managing and mitigating risk. At the same time, also they also mitigate, also hedge against inflation. So the thing is, all those things that you talked about, yes, they will go down. And the hard part about this is your buying power of your dollar is weakening. So for example, Warren Buffett once said, he says, when I was born in 1930, a dollar today, and we're talking about 2018, 2019, today, when a dollar for Warren Buffett in 1930 today is now worth 6 cents.
Wow.
So if you wrapped up dollar bills in your coffee can and tucked it away and earned no interest on it, it would be worth 6 cents today based on inflation. So when you're looking at the insurance industry, they're buying bonds, they're buying things that increase when things inflate, right? So link your returns to things that also inflate in value. So if things are costing more money, well, guess what? The companies that they're investing or the bonds that they're investing also have a tendency to also inflate in value. So they're mitigating that risk right there. That's why they're such masters at managing and mitigating risk. Oftentimes, the investment officers of insurance companies don't get a lot of love. You get the investment officers of these hedge funds, the investment officers of these mutual funds, the investment officers of these major investment banks. But not a lot of people talk about the investment managers at insurance companies. Because you got to keep this in mind. They bring in a pool of money. And when people are paying their life insurance premiums and people aren't dying off or claims aren't being paid, what are they doing with that money? They're investing that money. And they have a responsibility, according to all the rating agencies that look upon them, to appropriately report based on S&P, Fitch, Moody's, and best ratings to make sure that they have the reserves, to make sure they have a promise to pay those death claims. And they have reserves to back the reserves. And the best ones have reserves to the reserves.
For sure.
Therefore, their rating of that insurance company is considered what they call investment grade or B++ and above.
Yeah. And what I love about the insurance industry in general with a lot of insurance companies is a lot of times they self-insure. So for many of them, it's such a self-sustaining economic system. They have their own little ecosystem within the insurance industry.
But the more interesting thing about that, not only do they self-insure, but they have things that they call reinsurance. So in other words, if we're both an insurance company, right? I said, Kwok Brothers, okay? 7-figure squad, we're creating our own reinsurance company. So we're both issuing a policy to a policyholder of, let's say, $1 million. But if that person dies, okay, $1 million isn't going to be paid just for me. We're splitting that risk. We're reinsuring each other. So $500,000 comes from your paper, $500,000 comes from my paper.
It's like a diversified bond.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And so therefore, these are all domiciled in Bermuda. The only college that people say, I want to be in the life insurance industry, are people that live in Bermuda, because that's where all the reinsurance companies, Swiss Re, all these different companies have their domiciled in Bermuda. So what happens with the insurance companies, they've hedged their risk by reinsuring. Kwok Brothers, Seven Figure Squad, insurance company. So the client still gets the $1 million. But in the meantime, we're able to collect more money. We're able to invest that money. And when the claims have to pay based on the amount of people in a class, like for example, males of 35 years old dies off at 80 years old. In the meantime, 30, 40, 50 years of investing that money, compounding growth over time, it's a major hedge against inflation.
Major hedge, especially if you're talking about the IBC concept we were just talking about on screen, right? With the Nelson Nash Institute, right?
Correct.
Beautiful concept. And a lot of the reasons you just mentioned is why I love real estate, right? So from the real estate standpoint, if you think about insurance, it absolutely rides with inflation. It protects inflation. Same thing with real estate. A good friend of mine, George Gammon, right? Beautiful economic mastermind. He says that if you look at the cost of a house in 1980 versus the cost of today, absolutely has gone up. But my argument is the price of real estate has never increased. It's inflated.
Right.
It never increases. So if you think about market rent, if you think about value investing with real estate, these are things that are always going to ride with inflation. A lot of people are like, well, Daniel, what about 2008? Didn't the price of real estate plummet?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because the price of real estate was then backed by these mortgage-backed securities that many investment bankers thought were so secure, but obviously they weren't. So if you think about rent, if you think about all these things, in my opinion, because I want to get your thoughts on this now, right? Because we talked about why real estate and insurance are so safe against inflation. But let's say somebody's watching this right now, 18-year-old kid, right? Let's say they made a bunch of money from Dogecoin, right? They're all excited. They're like, man, I'm like the Michael J. Burry of the investment game, right? And they come to you like, hey man, I love your car. What do you do for a living? And you're like, oh, I'm in the insurance game. So a lot of people are like, well, I know how to invest in stocks. Just download my Robinhood app, right? I know how to invest in crypto. I know how to invest, but how do I invest in insurance? How do you do that, Matt?
Yeah, so the play with insurance is a little bit of a longer play than the immediate returns they might receive in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And
which I think is great, right? Because the wealthy think long term.
Sure, yeah. So for those of you watching this, I can't say that in 6 months you're gonna make money with insurance. However, if you pack that policy filled with cash, and we're not talking about your granddaddy's policy, which is just a term insurance policy. We're talking about a permanent life policy, which is either whole life policy, universal life policy, and index universal life policy. I definitely would not recommend a variable life policy because it goes up and down, directly correlated to the stock market. But if you have policies that have a guaranteed floor, that no matter what, they'll either have the minimum interest rate guarantee within inside that policy or a 0% floor. In other words, everybody might be losing money in the stock market or potentially in real estate or in cryptocurrency. But inside a life insurance policy, whatever you put in there, your premiums, safe. They're never going to earn less than what you put in there. They're never going to earn less than what the minimum guaranteed interest rate is within inside that policy. But if it's a little bit more of the fancy one, which is the index universal life, they index their returns to an index like S&P 500, the Dow Jones, Russell 2000, right? These are different indices that the policies buy option, the insurance companies buy options towards. So when the market goes up, you lock in a potential positive return, okay, up to a certain cap. Now, if the market crashes, and it will, you're relegated to the minimum interest rate guaranteed inside the policy without ever putting your principal or previous earnings at risk.
And what's beautiful is, I was talking with my buddy Dave about this, but worst case scenario, if you can't pay your premiums, the cash value from the insurance policy will pay the premiums itself. So, I'm a big advocate. For those of you guys that are watching, right? This video is on our channel, but I myself, your content creator, I have a index universal and I also have a whole life because I understand exactly what Matt and I are talking about, and what Matt's saying is very much true. So I want to get into, how do we now make money, right? Because you do have a lot of people who made a lot of money in Doge, crypto, et cetera, and they're looking for something long term. They're looking for something safer because we all know this dance can't last for a very long time. So I'm going to share in a little moment here on what is my recommendation for how you invest in real estate right now in May of 2021 at the filming of this video. But you mentioned a couple golden nuggets. Where can they, do you know a YouTube channel, man, where they can get some more golden nuggets?
7-Figure Squad, baby. If you want to think like a millionaire and strategize like a millionaire, so therefore you can become a first generation cash flow millionaire. That's what the 7-Figure Squad was talking about. Because to talk about this topic of inflation, everything you just talked about inflated in value.
Yes.
Right? Everything, 20, 30, 40 years in value. You know what has not inflated in value? Wages.
Wow.
50 years, people have been relatively getting the same paycheck for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Wages have been stagnated, but cost of goods and services has skyrocketed. Listen, I'm the reason why you and I resonate because our parents are both immigrant families, and we came here to the United States with dirt, with nothing. And, without a college degree, without a sales, business, financial background, I was able to learn the rules of the money game. I was able to learn insurance. I was able to learn sales. I was able to learn entrepreneurship. And I cut my own income. And I just did a video on my YouTube channel, my reaction towards filling up my car with $90 worth of gas because I have to take premium, right? Yeah. It's $4.25 per gallon.
And poor you.
Right.
Man, what a hard life.
But you're right. I wasn't so worried about it. You know why? Because the years prior to that, I was working on my game.
That's right.
I was working on when everybody was out partying and doing their thing. I was studying insurance books. When everybody was hanging out on what I call overly hanging out, because Filipinos love to hang out.
For sure.
Like now I've learned just to kind of show up and just hello, eating him, kissy here, and say bye-bye. Yeah. Right. But I went home and I studied my craft. I followed up on clients, got my week ready for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, on Sunday nights. So now that gas is up, I've been able to increase my income and not be so concerned. And furthermore, because I put gas inside a business vehicle, I can deduct it on my taxes.
For sure.
Right? I can deduct my usage of my car through business usage on my business through taxes. So even more money, instead of paying Uncle Sam and in taxes, I can put that money now inside my policy or other savings.
So how many years, my friend, how many decades at this point have you continued that habit of studying, learning? I mean, you're still learning now. How many years are we talking?
I'm 22 years.
Right. So 22 years. If you guys want to see 22 years of wisdom, knowledge, insurance, seven-figure squad, baby, right?
Yeah.
Seven-figure squad. So for those individuals looking to invest in real estate right now, because it is a real asset, it's not going anywhere. You can't make any more dirt, right? I always say, hey man, you can always make more people. Marvin Gaye's music will always be around. You know? But with land, you can't create more land. So with individuals investing in real estate, I say get your long-term financing right now. I love seller financing because right now, if you go to banks, they're only going to do about 3 to 5 years before you have to refinance. They'll put a balloon or they'll do what's known as swap rate financing, where they'll do something to replace the rate that they're going to give you right now in 3 to 5 years, because rates are at record lows. They don't want to keep that forever. So I highly recommend, options like lease options, seller financing. Learn the game right now. If you want to learn how to do that, get this book, by the way. But that's the way to do it in real estate, in my opinion.
My first home was a lease option to buy.
Right on, my man.
In a neighborhood that's way above my pay grade, but I wanted my kids to get the access to the best school system. I bought the cheapest house on the most expensive block because the homes in that area, it was Western Springs, right? Hinsdale. Very, very well-to-do areas, right? But I bought a knockdown house. It's like I go to these neighborhoods, Daniel, and I'm like, wow, this is a beautiful house. Yeah, they're gonna knock it down and build something. What? They're gonna knock it down? It's like a $500,000 house they're gonna knock down.
Wow.
Why are they gonna knock it down? Well, they want to build that, a McMansion.
Yeah.
I said, that house is good enough for me, man. I come from Chicago. That house is a beautiful house. Don't knock it down. So what I did is I bought that house, stayed in it for 8 years. They wanted to knock it down 8 years ago. So I leased it and then I bought it. 12 months later. I put a large, hefty down payment. I 50% of my rental payment went towards the down payment. And I was able to find a mortgage at the 12-month, 13-month. I bought it and I just sold it to another builder who wanted to knock it down. But I made my money with a lease option to buy.
But that's what a lease option. That's a lease with an option to buy. Option is a contract that you can exercise after a certain period of time. But I say seller financing are phenomenal ways, and short sales are phenomenal ways and strategies for you to make money in real estate right now. Seller financing, where the seller becomes your bank, they finance you. And what's beautiful about it is you don't have to institute a balloon. Right? You can have a fixed rate financing for 25, 30 years. No bank is doing 30-year financing right now. So for me, that's the best opinion, the best way to invest in real estate. Any other thoughts, Matt, in terms of how somebody can invest in insurance today, considering the inflation market?
Yeah, you want to be able to also not only lock in based on today's market price, more importantly, your current health. If you're healthy today, right, you want to be able to lock that in. If something happens to you a month from now, 6 months from now, you've got a policy area locked in, doesn't matter. If you had a worst case, I mean, by the way, you don't have to be old to experience this. We've had 36-year-olds, 38-year-olds have heart attack and strokes as clients. So don't think that I got to wait till I'm old. One biggest misconception is that I got to wait till I'm old to buy life insurance. There's a reason why people can get a policy when a baby's 9 days old. Who do you think instituted it? Who do you think wanted the insurance company to issue a policy when a baby's 9 days old? Rich people. They want to say, hey, I want to be able to tuck money away and allow time value of money, compound money inside this policy over time. So by the time they're 18, 20 years old, with college is already paid for, who do you think did all that? It was people that had money to get. So
yeah, and by the way, you don't have to be a millionaire to institute that strategy. You could be Joe Schmo making $70,000 a year. You know, the median annual income now is $64,000. I read that on Forbes the other day. Even if you're making $64,000 a year, you know, household income, let's say, is 90 or 100, you can still do that, you know, just at a smaller scale. I mean, every parent watching this should be instituting that strategy. Am I wrong?
You know, I started my kids off with $50 because at that time, that's the only thing I could afford. So I had 3 kids at the time, 50, 50, 50. Years later, when I started making more money, and then 100, 100, 100, then 200, 200, 200, then 400, 400. Like I was telling your team here is that my kids have a policy. I hope they don't watch this video. The kids already have a policy. They don't even know it's there, but it's going to be there for them. It's going to be my gift to them when they get married. So it's a wedding gift I've been working on for, well, whenever they decide to get married. It's basically a 20-year plus plan for them to get married and have some capital, cash and capital inside the policy. Then at that time, I'm going to switch ownership for me to them. They're the insured, but I'm the owner. Now I'm going to switch to ownership, just like property. Same thing too with an insurance contract. It's a piece of it's a piece of property. It's a financial asset, not necessarily a real estate asset. But I'm just switching over the ownership from me to them at that point. And
what is that policy and strategy called?
Well, it's another version of infinite banking. But for them, instead of using a whole life policy, since I didn't need it right away, I used an index universal life policy.
I see. And you started when they were nine days old.
Yeah, one was 7 because when my babies are younger, I was broke. So I started when they were 7 years old and 5 years old.
Wow.
And all the kids, I mean, I have a picture of it on Instagram, all the kids holding their insurance policies and my will and trust right there in the middle saying, we are creating generational wealth. We're going to be tomorrow's old money.
Insane. Yeah. So if you guys want to learn more about that 7-Figure Squad YouTube channel, you guys are at what, 89.5?
We're almost correct. 89.5.
Yes. You guys are almost, guys, let's get into 100,000 subscribers this month. That's going to be the goal, right? But show my man some love. I checked out your channel. You got a lot of really good content there, man. So thanks for being on. I appreciate it. And guys, I'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for having me.